finally made it. It only took them 7 days to get my transmission delivered from Michigan to Indiana. Had to drive an hour and a half to go pick this thing up. There you go. See what she looks like. Yep, that's it. Going over the new transmission and looking at this spot on the old one. This is the old trans. This location. The seal's open. Everything's open right here. Alright, let's go look at the new one. Here's the new one. And now it's closed. Interesting. The machining on this is very poor. Very, very poor. Honed it down, made sure there's no high spots. O-ring, cleaned up where that O-ring sits in here. Now we're gonna put it on. Got some of this ultra black gasket maker. Maximum oil resistance. Real thin coat. Nice and clean. Now I'm getting this adapter plate on to the transfer case. If you're lucky like I am and get to put a new transmission in your Roxor, this and this pin, dowel pin, locator pin, alignment pin, however you want to call it, they don't give you new ones. And you'll probably end up destroying the old ones trying to get them out. If you want to know how important it is, so I got the plate on. All the bolts are loose. See how much that wiggles? So this comes out of your transfer case to the transmission. And then your transfer case obviously bolts here. So it aligns the transfer case to the transmission. If these are not in alignment, you're going to be having heavy wear on these bearings. Alignment is important. So what do? Well, they're 8mm dowel pins, or you go down to the hardware store and get you a 5/16 roll pin and make it fit. So yeah, just cut that puppy in half. Now we're going to put her in a hole. We'll put it in the transmission, just like the old one. Beautiful. Transmission vents. It's plastic. Got a little hole on the top. This is the top. Here's the bottom, little hole. If you don't know where it is, it's right here. No threads, nothing. It's just glued on. Sitting in there like so. There it is. Here's my old one. Alright. So, we're going to put a vent tube on it. Went down to the auto parts store and purchased some fuel line. It is like $1.70 a foot, 7/16. Just slides right over the top. Real nice. So make a square cut here. I'm going to open the top and glue this to this overnight. That's what I'm using. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm sure it will. Plastic, rubber, should work. Just here's the hole. Put it on the outside of it. I bought 10 foot of this rubber fuel line because don't really know how much I'm going to need. I'll use the other side. I didn't square that side off. That looks square. Alright. Alright, that's on. Let that sit overnight, and then I will use black RTV and attach this to the transmission. Alright, let's get this transfer case back together. I'm going to use some of this ultra black gasket maker, maximum oil resistance. I'm going to put a very light coat on this face right here. This does not get a gasket. This was metal to metal when I took it apart. Alright, very thin coat, paper thin, not cardboard paper thin, but like printer paper thin. I'm going to slide the gear back in. This is transmission side. Then we'll slide this puppy back on. Alright. I'm not torquing anything to torque spec. Just going, next thing we'll do is put this piece on. I'm going to build it without this pin. Building it without that pin allows me to move those two rods independently for my twin stick conversion. We'll get to that later. For right now, let's get this piece on. This is the gasket. It was $1. I ordered 2 of them. Just make sure it fits, and what do you know? It fits. I probably will still use a very little bit of that black RTV just because. I mean, yeah, I know it's a gasket. I know it's supposed to seal it, but I don't want to take it apart again. So I'm going to put some of that black RTV on it. So remember, whenever you build this, you got to put all these pieces in first before you put it on the transfer case. Looks good. Seated all the way. All right. Next thing we're going to do is connect these two pieces. Slide her in the hole. Alright, looks good. At this time, if you are not going to do a twin stick conversion, you need to put this pin in. I'm doing twin stick, so leaving the pin out. So I'll wipe it clean, put the gasket on, a little bit of that black RTV, and install it. There's a nice thin coat. Put this on. Now I'll put a little bit more on that. Gasket's good. Now I will attempt to put this cover on without everything falling out of it. That was pretty easy. Alright, let's bolt it up. She's all bolted up, nice and tight. These rods can move independent of each other. That's what you want if you want to do a twin stick. So you have your rear drive shaft here, your front drive shaft to be here. If you want your four-wheel drive to engage, pull this lever, and now it moves with the rear drive shaft. Now it does not. Use your high and low gear. Alright, let's put the cover on. I'll do the same thing on the bottom as I did on this cover. I'll put a thin coat of black RTV, gasket, more black RTV, cover. That don't match up. Hey, that does. Alright, now some of this on the gasket. Covers on. I bolted it from the inside out. So tightened up the middle bolts, came this way with it, then went that way with it. Went over it a couple times, made sure everything was good and tight. 28mm chrome and a 1/2 inch impact. Got me a washer to put on this spring retainer bolt, spring compression bolt. My previous video talks about how I was going to try and fix it, but ball goes in the spring. Whoa. We'll put the bolt in. Let's see if one washer does it. Feels good. One washer will work. Try the other side. Okay, that's all lined up. Ball, spring. Need to grab it with something. That'll work. Here's the vent for your transfer case. It doesn't actually look like this. It actually has a cap on it and a spring. Why am I wearing these damn gloves? So, had to work it off with a pair of pliers, just pinching it back and forth, back and forth. And eventually it came off. But yeah, that's going to stay off permanently, go in the garbage. I'm going to put a tube on that with a zip tie, route that a couple feet higher. The new transmission is fixing to go back under. Vent tube glued down. It'll be a lot lighter this time without a transfer case on it. Here's a throw-up bearing I never showed you guys. Alright, now the fun part. Put it under there. Time for tips and tricks. Put it all together right here on the floor as you see it. Go ahead and take that shifter off. It just makes things easier. Go ahead and put oil in it. So yeah, build it completely on the floor. Take shifter out. Fill it full of oil. Then install it. That transfer case is very heavy to try and lay on your belly. and push it up into place. And you kind of need that transfer case on to grab a hold of the transmission to kind of rock it back and forth to get it to line up to the flywheel. So you got to rock it back and forth to get them teeth to line up. You can't reach inside the transmission, so grab a hold of the transfer case. You can rock it back and forth. So yeah, tips and tricks. Now to put it back in, it's gonna take a whole lot of ass. I need someone with a fat ass and strong arms. Got to push this up and into place. Transmission's back in, transfer case is back in. Put my vent tubes right here, so when it pukes, it's just going to pour all over the manifold. Ugh. Drive shaft's back in. Did not install the transfer case shifting linkage yet because I'm going twin stick. I gotta drive over to a friend's house and fab that up. The new transmission did not come with any oil from the factory, so had to fill that up. There we go. There's that vent tube out of the transfer case. There's the vent tube out of the transmission. Alright. Time to go break some shit. This is a brand new transmission I got from Wade. This is my backup transmission, but if anybody needs a transmission, I have it. I installed the one that I ordered from Mahindra, and this one's just going to go in storage. I also have one of these moisture absorbing bags you find in your beef jerky packets, you know. It'll be climate controlled storage, waiting for maybe to destroy my stock trans or waiting for someone else to need it. Put both gaskets in here, my spare gaskets. I'm also going to put my stock clutch. Still in good shape. So if anybody needs a clutch, transmission, and Mahindra can't put out, I can. Wrapping this video up, obviously no one really plans to break shit unless you're a special kind of person. And when you do break things, you want to be able to get a hold of your dealer or an individual and get the help and the parts you need. I contacted Wade. He had a spare transmission sitting on the floor, and I contacted the local Mahindra dealer, and they said that there was one on the shelf in Michigan. I went ahead and ordered the one through Mahindra, and I waited almost 7 days before calling Wade and saying, hey, go ahead and just ship me your transmission. I called every business day during those 7 days to Tom Woods asking if it had shipped from Michigan to the dealer, and Mahindra didn't tell him anything. It was kind of a pain in the ass. You would hope that Mahindra would be more informative or let their customers know, hey, yeah, your transmission, it shipped, it's on the way to the dealer. So on the 3rd of February, I called Wade and asked him if he would go ahead and just send me his transmission. at the end of his workday, he sent it. Had it to my house by the 5th. He couldn't be more grateful. What a great guy. He's really an asset to us Roxor enthusiasts. Tom Wood did give me a call, though, on Thursday saying that my transmission arrived. So it went from don't know when it's going to be here to, hey, surprise, it's here. So now I have 2 transmissions. Not complaining. I know it sounds like I'm complaining. Tom Woods, I appreciate what they've done. I appreciate Wade and everything he does. Just Mahindra and how they work their parts inventory and shipping customers the parts that we need really sucks. Some better management needs to be going on up there in Michigan. Another big thanks to my neighbor Joe. Could not have got that transmission out or in by myself with just a regular old floor jack. So he's a lot of help. And another huge thanks to my wife. She's been real supportive, and I it's lots of hours in the garage just tinkering on the Roxor. But it's a project that's never going to be done. Maybe one day I'll run it in the King of the Hammers like Max did yesterday. Who knows? Then she would really be happy. She would probably be super supportive of that and how cheap of a hobby that would be. So that wraps up this video. I know it's a long one. If you watched to the end, thanks. And now it's time to go see how well this clutch grabs. See what I break next.